All right. We would say we got the check marks. We're going to wait for Buana to give us the thumbs up for our super awesome super fans group on Facebook. I see it up. We're waiting for the green check, and the green check is there. We got the thumbs up. All right, Luke, I'm going to dish it over to you. Happy Saturday. You're on.
Happy Saturday, man. And what's up, Broncos country? Mile High hello to you, Nick, and to the rest of everybody else. And it's a Mile High Insider pregame show, special edition. So, dude, when this came down the pipe 2 weeks ago, I know Chad said, Nick's in, you're in, let's get it going, man. So I'm pumped. The Buffalo Bills are in town to face your Denver Broncos. I'm Luke Patterson. He's Nick Kendell. MHI, man, we're taking over, Nick. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited for the game today. Like I said last week, I really hyped and pushed on that word optimism coming off the Chiefs game. And, we were at probably a 6 last week. We're probably at a 7.5 this week after Drew Lock's game last week, beating the Panthers. So feeling pretty good. I'm a little tired. Cat had to have emergency surgery last night. He swallowed like a eyedropper kind of thing. So I'm exhausted. That was all night. But ready for football. Watched my Hawks get beat by Gonzaga this morning. Now hopefully my Broncos can step up because I'm feeling I need a little pick me up here. I'm obviously, though, being in here in Mile High Insiders, pick me up enough.
Yeah, well, thoughts and prayers to you and your family, man. I hope your beloved pet and cat feels so much better, because that's always tough, man. But what's going to get you energized is this game, Broncos-Bills, man. It's finally here. It's the first regular season Saturday matchup, so I can't wait to get into it with you, man. But first, today's live stream podcast is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado, and here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for all sports fans. You have sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers. They're not a third-party provider of odds. Reduced juice and best prices. There's hassle-free bonuses with a one-time rollover, meaning the bonus money is yours after you bet it just one time. Now, other sites, they range between 5 and 30 times. There's 24/7 live customer support, always a real person in the United States. So here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle, you can get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover 100% of the difference, up to $1,000 with a one-time rollover. So, Broncos country, head on over to sports betting at www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. That's www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. And make sure to find us on Twitter, gang. I'm Luke Patterson at Luke Patterson LP. He is Nick Kendell at Nick Kendell MHH. And if you're joining us today via YouTube, do us a huge favor. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. We love to see those little thumbs up. We appreciate all the support we get from the MHH community. And also, don't miss all of our great in-season content at milehighhuddle.com, and affiliated of Sports Illustrated, part of the Maven Coalition, brought to you by Overtime Media. We got John Bawana Beast producing on the ones and twos. And most importantly, head on over to any platform where you're hearing our podcast. We've got the Huddle Up podcast, which will be breaking down the game at halftime and the post game. You had the Dove Valley Deep Divers last night. You have Building the Broncos and Mile High Insiders. Go ahead and subscribe and give us a review. All right, Nick, it's here. Game time is here, man. The Bills are in town. Josh Allen is in town all week. The hype has been Josh Allen versus Drew Lock. What are your initial impressions of this big quarterback battle we're going to see here on Saturday national coverage game?
Man, this is might as well hashtag Nick's a stick in the mud, but I always kind of hate that narrative where it's a quarterback versus quarterback. I know it's great for media narrative, but those guys actually never really go head to head out there. So it's really Josh Allen versus Vic Fangio on the Broncos defense, and then also Drew Lock versus Sean McDermott and that Bills defense. So it'll be a good game. Obviously, we've said it many times this year. This is kind of a measuring stick game. Josh Allen is playing on that borderline MVP level. He's playing extremely well. So that's awesome. We're excited about that. To see what happens there. But Drew Lock playing better this last game, the tongue-tied there, and we're excited to see what this game will bring. I mean, the Bills defense, obviously, they have a lot of names. They haven't played incredible this year, but still a great test for Drew Lock and a game where the Broncos might have to lean on him a little bit more because they might have to play a little bit of keep up with that Bills offense.
I think and speaking of keep up, I got to start keeping up with the fashion. If we get that comment back up there, Bawana, I got Nico coming in here saying, "Great sweater, Kendall. Wearing the same at the moment here in Germany." Nico Schilling, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Yeah, absolutely, I love it. I tweeted out earlier at one of our own today at Keith Scribe. I can't remember the Twitter handle, but Keith is one of our great contributors and writers at milehighhuddle.com. Another member of Broncos country that is just representing Chad and Mile High Huddle's famous mantra of Broncos country is not a geographical location. It's a state of being. So I appreciate seeing that from across the pond, as they would say, but you're exactly right, Nick. This isn't so much a battle of the quarterbacks. This is a battle of two different teams. And we got Stu Meat coming in here with a $4.99 super to get us hyped and get us off the ground. Appreciate you so much, Stu. Go Broncos. You're exactly right, man. It's this is Vic Fangio for me has got to have the coaching game of his life right now against the Bills. And I get it. The Bills they're a great red zone offense, but you know what? As you remind me, Nick, the Broncos defense, they bend and they don't always break. And I'm expecting them to bend today. But you know what? I do see some holes in Josh Allen's game. And I'm not talking just about the interceptions, but I'm wondering if Vic Fangio is going to throw some blitzes at Josh Allen and try to get him on the run. As I was going through some Josh Allen film this year, it dawned on me. He's got 8 fumbles, Nick. This guy can cough up the ball when he runs. Now, he's a freaking beast when he's on the ground and he's motoring over guys. He's gotten a lot more responsible as he's starting to mature in his NFL career. But, man, Josh Allen, I think he can be beaten. But in order to win this game, it's ultimately going to be on the coaching staff of Vic Fangio for me rather than Drew Lock.
Yeah, and I think I will disagree with you as far as game plan goes. The best approach for Josh Allen, I think the best thing you can do is not give up the deep ball, keep the ball in front of you, and kind of really that it's kind of like Indiana Jones where the walls are caving in. That's kind of the pass rush you need with Josh Allen. Make him be a Peyton Manning. Make him be a Tom Brady where he has to be patient in the pocket, staying back there, nickel and diming, and moving the ball, matriculating at least slowly. And if you can do that, keeping the ball in front of you, obviously Stephon Diggs is only wide receiver I'd say is playing better right now. Probably is Devontae Adams. So you gotta be careful with him. John Brown is out, but I think kind of a more conservative game plan, keeping the ball in front of you, not letting Josh Allen, who's just a gosh darn thoroughbred in the open field, run it, making him play pocket quarterback. That's your best chance. I think that's your best chance. It's kind of the Patrick Mahomes thing. Patrick Mahomes is slipperier. Josh Allen's more of a tight end. And you were talking about the interceptions. While Josh Allen does turn the ball over, I think he has something insane like 33-0 touchdown to interception ratio in the red zone. So while he does turn it over, is he in the red zone? I mean, that's something people have been pointing at Drew Lock versus Josh Allen. And I get it. It's kind of that's your hope as far as the passing improvement go. But Josh Allen's red zone ability, I've said it all leading up to this game and all season. He's the best red zone weapon in football. So I don't know. The line kind of ends there for me. But we'll see. It's a great game. He's playing great. Vic Fangio. I do worry the cornerbacks are just too decimated. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just at some point, Jimmy's and Joe's rather than X's and O's. I mean, people are like, oh, Vic Fangio should have been better. Well, he's playing out there with missing like 5 of his top 7 cornerbacks. Like, what can he even do?
Yeah. Well, thank God Will Parks is back as we talk about a decimated defensive secondary unit. Yeah. Will Parks had a great game against Carolina. And something I want to give you guys props. Broncos country, MHH, Nick Kendell, you guys told me the Panthers were going to get beat by the Broncos, and you guys had that enthusiasm. I'm feeling it today, man. I don't know if by the end of the show if I'm going to change my pick or what. I'm feeling something different. I don't know if it's because I'm so excited to be on the pregame show or what. But, Nick, talk to me about the wide receivers for the Bills. You mentioned Stephon Diggs. Shocked me when I actually pulled up the stats and saw that Stephon Diggs was not leading the team in touchdowns. A wide receiver named Gabriel Davis, a rookie, he's leading the team in touchdowns. Who is this guy, Nick?
Is Gabriel Davis a rookie? I think he –
Is he? He's 2024 round
2019 or 2020. Yep. Either way, I remember scouting him. Central Florida, a long guy, more of a kind of a down-the-field strider, so to speak. I mean, he's a really good player. There's a lot of ability there. I think he was a 4th-round pick in a good wide receiver class. But it's really, it's Stephon Diggs who's the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak. So while Gabriel Davis is, capitalizing on the plays and scoring touchdowns, I still think, Stephon Diggs is the one they're going to have to roll coverage to, and then Gabriel Davis lead. It's kind of like, an Eric Decker, good player here, but coverage was being shifted over to Demaryius Thomas. He was the guy that the
Yeah.
teams were focused on. And, credit to Eric Decker. He was good enough to take advantage of that. He was a really good number 2. But it's kind of the same thing here. And I'm actually most happy, I think, for the Broncos' chances that John Brown is out of this game because, again, it's that speed element, that explosiveness where when you have a guy like that, if you're playing that very safe defense and then that guy still beats you over the top because he's got that speed. I mean, we saw it last year. He maybe had 2 touchdowns against the Broncos. That was the worst game of the year last year, in my opinion. Well, outside of one of the Chiefs games. But still, I mean, I'm really happy that he's out. I think they can keep guys in front of them, and still, it'll be a tough task. But John Brown, man, you know me, I really kind of focus and fascinate on speed options in the pass game. It's if a guy can create explosive pass plays, that changes the entire complexion of the offense. I mean, we saw it last week. KJ Hamler, finally, that's what you want. That's the whole reason you got that guy. So the fact that the Bills are missing that, even though the Broncos secondary is out and they have Diggs, they have Davis, I'm not as worried. I think there's a chance. It's kind of, it's dumb and dumber. There's a chance.
Man, there's so many resources. So you're telling me there's a chance. I like it. Do the Broncos have a chance? So we want to hear from you guys. Get in there. I see this chat is super active, but I like Gabriel Davis a lot, Nick. 6'2", 216 pounds. I know that doesn't wow in terms of an NFL wide receiver, but you know what? Neither does Cole Beasley's size. And Cole Beasley's having a fairly productive year with Josh Allen as well. Broncos country. You'll also see a familiar name on the screen. Isaiah McKenzie will be returning to the Mile High City. Not sure if he's the active returner right now for them. I doubt he is because it seems like once he went to the Bills, he had a few fumbles and stuff like that. Same problems he was having here, but then they really kind of tailored to his strengths, and return game just really wasn't it because of the fumbles. Isaiah McKenzie only has 19 receptions for 183 yards and 3 touchdowns on the season, but you've also got some talented running backs when you look at the Buffalo Bills, Nick. Man, I see so much in the screen game from this Buffalo offense if Vic Fangio wants to blitz. I see so much with the running back draws. What do you expect to see with the running game? Because traditionally, the Broncos have been holding up okay despite a decimated defensive line as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's playing disciplined football in your gaps, not asking guys to do too much. That's one of the things that Vic Fangio and this defense does so well. I mean, you've seen him hold some pretty good teams and good quarterbacks in the pocket and make them really have to earn everything that they score or moving the ball. So it's probably the same thing with the running game. It's the thing that makes me nervous about this, and we kind of saw it last week with Teddy Bridgewater as well, is that you are a little bit vulnerable to those quarterback moves. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is not a great athlete, but there was 10, 15 yards there for taking up the middle multiple times for him in this game. Now you add a guy like Josh Allen. So that might change the recipe a bit on defense and could open up other things. But stopping a running back is one thing. Stopping a running quarterback off of the rushing attack is an entirely different thing. So that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, Devin Singletary, Zach White, always a talented duo. Zach Moss, excuse me. Zach Moss. Yeah, thank you. I think they're a talented duo. I think they're average. I don't think they're anything great.
It's a classic example of not using premium resources at running back and just using guys on rookie contracts and just in and out.
Churn that butter, baby. Yep. Yeah, no, and Muhammad coming up in here. Muhammad Badri kicking off our show as well. Thank you so much for the support. Dripping in that swag. Hey guys, nice surprise to see you all. Hashtag Luke, hashtag Smooth Killers. I appreciate you so much, Muhammad. Yeah, we're surprising folks. The best pregame show on the planet is here right now with Mile High Insiders because you guys are joining us. We appreciate y'all so much. We got Stu McPeak, your boy, coming in here, Nick, with a $20 super. Hi, all. Go Broncos. Nick, I'm feeling the enthusiasm. I was Mr. Grinch, and we got Steven in here too. Stu saying what's up to all the homies. I can feel the energy, Nick. I was the Grinch last week, but man, I don't know. The big moments happen on these stages. They're calling it a trap game for Buffalo. I don't know that I buy that. It could be a blowout for Buffalo. I'm not sure I buy that either. Drew Lock, this is it, man. Aren't you sick of hearing about Josh Allen and that University of Wyoming crap up the road? This is your town. This is your city. I want to see how this guy's going to come out and play because I'm not expecting him to have 4 touchdowns. I wasn't expecting that last week. You guys said he was going to come out and play well, and you guys were right. He definitely did. But Drew does not need to throw 4 touchdowns for the Broncos to win this game. I'm just looking for one game, Nick. One game without a turnover. Is that too much to ask?
Man, it really matters on the flow of the game. right? Like if the Broncos are down 14-17 early and you have to take some shots, then and that means also being a little bit more aggressive with how long the guy's in the pocket, the type of throws you're making. Sometimes you got to live with that to try to create some explosive plays. And sometimes that's just it's essentially a long punt. If you can get the 3rd and long and you throw it deep and it's intercepted, well, it happens. So obviously we want to see a little bit more ball protection, but again, it's making the play that's in front of you and letting your playmakers go make plays. I'm really excited to have Noah Fant back this week, especially with how they utilized the 2 tight end sets last week, getting the ball out in space. I mean, the difference between getting the ball to a Troy Fumagalli / Nick Vannett in the flat versus a Noah Fant is huge. And I'm really excited to see the difference between another week of the Broncos offensive line versus the Bills defensive line this week. That'll be a really interesting one. We got Richie Rich coming in here now. We talked a lot on Twitter just the other day. So thanks for reaching out to me on Twitter, guys. Again, at Nick Kendell MHH. If you guys want to talk at building the Broncos, that's kind of the other show, but just team building stuff or just the Broncos in general, add us. We're here. I'm about it. I'm busy working, but Twitter calls. It's that social media, man. The notifications is intoxicating.
Oh, and Richie's in it too, dude. Yes. Richie's in the know. Richie, man, I see Richie on other shows putting in work, man. So
and we disagreed, but that's great. That's a difference of philosophy. Yeah, that's what makes team building so much fun. There's so much discussions to have. But here we go with Richie Rich coming in, or Richie Rich. Nick, how do you think the IOL versus the IDL of the Bills? That's going to be a really interesting question, and that's one that I kind of want to lead to here, where it is Netane Muti played really well last week. Obviously, there were some lapses in technique and maybe the mental speed of the pass coverage or the pass blocking, but really some highlighted plays in the run game. A lot of power. Excited to see. I think Graham Glasgow is going to be back this week as well. So we're probably going to see a rotation. A lot of people are like, oh, I hate that. I think it was James Campbell, a friend of MHH, a worker of MHH, loves James over across the pond there in the UK, said that he hated it when the Broncos did it with Alan Barber and there was another just kind of for name you forget in the offensive line when they were rotating guys there. He's like, oh, I hated it. It's like, well, it really sucks when you're rotating guys because you don't have somebody. That's
Jared Valdir. It was Jared Valdir, I think.
No, he played right tackle. Barber is like trying to figure out the guard position. Somebody in the chat will probably. Oh, James Campbell. He's saying it right. James is here, so he will probably.
What's up, James?
For us.
Answer our question.
It'll be interesting to see what happens there with the rotation. It's not a big deal for me because
Max Garcia, Bawana's on it, dude. Okay. That's who. How can we forget about the most underrated offensive?
They moved him around and stuff. So there was also Billy Turner was there, but Billy Turner was pretty good once they got the guard position. He was solid. I mean, he got paid.
You'll see him tonight, Packers and Panthers, and it's bizarre when you see Billy Turner out there because you're solid just player. Solid player, got paid, like you
Carl,
said.
You're rude, Carl. Carl, I hope Iowa plays Kansas in basketball. We'll see what happens.
Carl coming in off the top rope.
Punch me while I'm down. But no, I think it's the point I wanted to make about the rotation there and what James Campbell was saying earlier about he hated it when it was Garcia / Barber there at that guard position. Well, it sucks when you have two guys that aren't really good enough. You're trying to make something stick. This is one where actually it's going to be more so like the beginning of a college football season where you have your Power Fives playing against, Louisiana Tech. That kind of team where you're rotating the offensive line, just kind of getting guys reps, changing the recipe a little bit and figuring out what you can do going forward. So it's more of that kind of mentality because Muti and Glasgow are going to be back. Those are both guys that have upside. It's not like we don't have any options, so we're throwing things out there. It's guys who are like, these are both promising, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's a great question from Richie Rich because Ed Oliver, what a beast. I know he's a guy who doesn't like Ed Oliver. I haven't heard a bad thing about the guy since he got into the league. And one thing I wanted to just piggyback off of Huddle Up's Zach Kelberman, he threw a tweet out there about an hour ago that I thought was really interesting, just highlighting Lloyd Cushenberry, saying that Lloyd Cushenberry is the only Broncos starter to play 100% of the offensive snaps. That's 854 out of 854 and counting. So, man, he's going to have his hands full. The rotation, I hear you, James. I don't like it either, but they're paying Graham Glasgow some money, man. So look at what they're doing with Melvin Gordon right now. They're using him because they're paying money. Now, he's got a banged up shoulder, and I don't think Lindsey's all right either. But
Gordon's been far and away the best running back the
you
last
bet
3 weeks. Not even close.
You bet. And and before I get you all fired up on the running back train, no man, Ed Oliver, dude, he's an absolute beast. 2019 first round pick, 26 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 5 QB hits. He's not a typical pass rusher, but man, he can clog up that middle.
He's a pass rusher.
I think he's better. Dude, 2 sacks this season. That's not doing much for me.
You got to look at the win rates.
He can rush. He's rushing them. He's putting those pressures on, but that's like Vaughn leading the league 2 years ago in quarterback hurries versus sacks, and I don't want to go down that road. But no, Ed Oliver, man, he's an absolute beast. But the corners, I like the corners for the Bills too, man. I like Tre'Davious White, obviously. Josh Norman. What do you make of Josh Norman at this point of his career, Nick? I mean, so he's a long way from Super Bowl 50, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of more of a has-been. Also, there's Levi Wallace out there, who is an undrafted player from Alabama, who actually was surprising to me that he went undrafted because he had some tools. Bills, I mean, that's a team that could probably upgrade that second cornerback position. Yeah. So maybe the Broncos, that's an area where they can exploit this game. I mean, you obviously still have Judy. Patrick is playing extremely well, and you had those big touchdowns with Hamler. So we'll see what happens there. Something also I want to highlight here is the Bills have a really, really, really good safety duo. They don't get super credit or a lot of hype, but people who know the game know that they are quite good. Jordan Poyer was undrafted, played for Cleveland, signed with the Bills, has been really good. And also Micah Hyde. I know that I'm just too loud horn with the Hawkeye guy there, but Micah Hyde, I think, is either their first or second highest rated defender on Pro Football Focus. He's been really good this year. He has a little bit of ability to play nickel, some outside snaps to match up with tight ends on the boundary, as well as too deep. So he's really good as well. So Tre'Davious White is incredible. So
yeah, Micah Hyde, like you said, man, 5 pass breakups, 1 fumble, and recovery, and an interception. So definitely making his presence known. But yeah, Tre'Davious White, dude, 3 interceptions leading the team right now. You got to know that this Bills defense is going to want to make Drew Lock beat them, right?
And I do want to touch one thing with the defensive line before we go too far.
Let's do it.
Vernon Butler is a player who, while Oliver is probably the most talented interior defensive lineman for the Bills, Vernon Butler's size and power and his ability to eat up multiple spaces is something that kind of concerns me with this Broncos interior offensive line, given outside of Moody, they're far more finesse. This is a far more finesse interior offensive line. Reisner he's not a pile driver kind of guy, nor is Cushenberry, nor is Glasgow. So Vernon Butler, I think he's like 6'5", 330 pounds, a lot of power, former first-round pick. There's some talent there. He had some blown-up plays as well. I'm curious to see what happens with the power rushing attack with the Broncos versus Vernon Butler, because he's a guy. I mean, he's a former first-round pick for a reason. He has some tools. He never really lived up to an incredible player, but one that the Broncos are going to win this game. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to beat Vernon Butler because it comes down to that rushing attack.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. And speaking of just some matters of business, we got Jabberjaw Gaming coming in here with, hey guys, what's the injury report for today? So first I want to go through the inactives just real quick. You got quarterback Jeff Driscoll, surprise, surprise. Wide receiver Tyree Cleveland. Mark Barron, that linebacker. Good luck seeing him. Sylvester Williams. DeMar Dotson. This is a name that surprised me, Nick. John texted me right before we hopped on the show. Hey, man, what's going on with my guy Dot? I'm like, what? I don't know. What's going on with him? Well, he's out. DeMar Dotson out. Anthony Chickalo out as well. That injury report, I'm being told right now that it's not like it's a terrible injury or bang up or anything, but something's bothering Melvin Gordon's shoulder. Philip Lindsay's, I think that toe's still bugging him just a little bit. But the biggest one, I'm not so sure it's injury related, but it's that funny little bug that Carl's daughter likes to describe. That's the big one, right? No Brandon McManus, Nick.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what the Broncos look like without arguably their highest scoring player before the Panthers game, I think, right? I mean, before last week it was BMAC, but BMAC's been missing PATs. He went into his own little realm following those funny little rules that we're not going to mention and all that stuff. Go look at Twitter. He's very frustrated. The Broncos staff, they're very frustrated. They feel like they did everything for him to be back against the Bills, and he is out.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially the play calling side of things. Also, I think I really cursed McManus because there was that question I gave you last week where it was like 10 players that the Broncos could save. And my 10th one was McManus because he had been playing so well this year. And of course, immediately after that, he has his worst game in multiple years. So sorry I cursed you. Now he's out. But I heard that I've seen on Twitter that the Broncos, they brought in Taylor Russolino. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yep.
My wife is an Italian last name, so I got a little practice there.
There you go.
So we'll see what happens. I think it was Pat McAfee also tipped off McMahon for that, so that's interesting. But I'd also heard that Russolino had missed a couple 40-yarders in warm-ups today, so we'll see how that changes the formula for the Broncos today. Maybe they'll be a little bit more aggressive going for it. That's not what you want to see for a team that's the possessions really matter, getting points matter. If this is going to be a Broncos win, it's probably going to be a ugly game. They're probably going to want to make it ugly and sloppy for both teams. That means the difference can be making field goals and not. So we'll see what happens. But that could be the difference maker.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Chad Jensen, our fearless leader, wrote a very good piece on milehighhuddle.com about I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna give it a go. Taylor Russolino. I hope that's right. If it's not right and you're not sure, just say it fast and kind of garble it at the end. But yeah, man, he was highlighting some stuff. Looks like this kid was undrafted, just like you said. Pat McAfee recommended him to Tom McMahon. Tom McMahon, of course, coached Pat McAfee with the Colts. Everybody's trying to throw Tom McMahon out with the bathwater. I think those signs are pretty much on the wall that's going to happen. Deontay Spencer might have saved his job for another couple of weeks, but who knows? It sounds like they were going to ride with him anyway. But interesting fact about this young kicker, Russolino, it looks like he played in the XFL in 2019, and he made a career-long 58-yarder, which set a record for the XFL, and that's probably because not only was it a long field goal, but they didn't really stay around that long as a league. So interesting, man. Kicking at altitude, 58-yarder. I like it. Vic Fangio came out this week, and I think he said, he's going to be fine. If he's kicking as good as he's kicking in practice, he's going to be fine. What else is coach supposed to say? No, I'm really worried. We're going to go for it on fourth down. This could be big, man. This could be really, really big. It makes me nervous.
Yeah, no, that it will be an interesting game from that perspective. Hopefully, again, Sam Martin plays well. The Broncos can make the Bills really have to earn it, march down the field. Punting is definitely something that people sleep on in the game, but when games are so close, man, to be able to pin them deep and win on special teams, it's something that Broncos have repeatedly lost on in the past, I guess, since the Super Bowl, mostly. So hopefully the special teams will come out to play, because in order to beat the Bills, you kind of need to win that third phase. So it'll be interesting. And I want to come back to a point you said earlier about the Broncos game potentially being a little bit of a road bump from the Bills. And I think there is something to that. The Bills team is still pretty young. They haven't been there before. I think they just clinched the NFC East, but they're coming off that big win versus the Steelers, which felt like a playoff atmosphere. Now they're coming to Denver, and then they have the Patriots, the team that they've been dealing with for years. They're looking ahead to beating the Patriots. Patriots still in the playoff hunt, and the Dolphins, probably the team that they're most likely to be their rival for the next 4 to 5 years as winning. So I really think there is something to be said about coming to Denver and this game being maybe a little bit overlooked. The one thing that makes me think that won't be the case is that this is somewhat of a homecoming for Josh Allen. This is a team that passed on him, probably a guy that he looked up to that didn't take him. So there's probably a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So I think maybe that might be a difference. Obviously he's a Northern California kid, then went to Wyoming, or Northern Central. I don't fully know.
Fireball. Okay, yeah, he was my guy then, dude. He was my guy. He was my quarterback.
I love him the junior year. I saw him at Iowa. I made sure to get tickets and watched him when he came to Iowa. And the Hawkeyes, they have a great defense. I think they have 25 games in a row where they haven't given up 24 points. So Josh Allen did not have a good game against Iowa. Yeah, man. Yeah, a little something to prove, right? Josh Allen's got friends and family here in the Mile High City. Friends that, can't necessarily go to the game from Wyoming and stuff like that. But no, the Bills will clinch the AFC East with a victory today and a Dolphins loss tomorrow. So they got something on the line for sure. People are wanting to know, are the Bills pretenders or are they contenders? I think they're contenders, man. This team, they're buying into what McDermott is selling. And I like that a lot. So this leads into our next segment. It's something we got to talk about. We just brushed on it for just a quick second. Secondary. The secondary is so depleted for the Broncos. What does that mean? We need a stronger word. They are decimated.
They've scorched earth, Thanos, snap, whatever you guys want to say. It's bad, man. Whoever
makes the next super chat, you're the Broncos starting cornerback if the next guy goes.
Yeah, forget the quarterback coming off the street. We need a corner back coming off the street. Michael Ojemudia talked this week, Nick. I'm falling more in love with this guy as a football player every week, man. He's so smart. He's so humble. I love the way he carries himself. I love his play on the field. Where do you see this kid matching up? You got Michael Ojemudia, you got Will Parks in the match a little bit. Devontae Bosby, people saw him back last week with the Broncos. How do you think Vic Fangio's planning to play these talented wide receivers for Buffalo? Because we know it's not going to be in man coverage, but what are the matchups going to be?
Well, Fangio likes to play a lot of match quarters, but you have seen more man principles this season than in years past. So it will be interesting. You're not going
to see it against Diggs. I will push back there. You will not see if you see man-to-man coverage, it will be 14 points scored easily on this Broncos defense in the first quarter. I'm willing to say that confidently. That you cannot do it, dude.
Well, Fangio plays so many two safety shells where it's not really island man-to-man. There's still going to be an overhang guy in coverage. So it's never going to be, they don't play really the cover 3 or the cover 1 where it's just that single high safety. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So there's versatility there. So I'm guessing you'll probably see more of the two deep shells on the dig side of the field, especially now that Brown's out. But, Fangio, one of the things Fangio does best is they switch up the defense and a lot of little things every single week. That's why it's such a veteran defense overall, because you have to have the intelligence, the ability to flip things, which makes the Broncos really hard to prepare for defensively. But it'll be an interesting game that way. It's just the thing. Last week they were so vulnerable against Teddy Bridgewater and his glass knee running up the middle, and now it's Josh Allen. So I'm just a little bit worried about that. I just have visions of my head of Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell splitting outside, and then Josh Allen up the middle, and you just see him he's already gone because they can't catch him because those guys don't cover ground very well. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I'm worried. Really, the thing I'm interested about, and this is more of a long-term talking point, but it is these Broncos boundary corners. It is Bosby, who had a pretty good game last week. He has more coverage upside. The tackling and the physicality sometimes is left wanting. It's better form than Ojemudia, but Ojemudia has more of just natural frame and power to make those tackles. So it's kind of a different conversation there, but I'm worried, or I'm curious to see how both these guys play, because I really think both of these dudes are playing for a potential starting spot next year. I mean, obviously right now, the way the draft is stacking up, it's probably the Broncos' biggest need this offseason will be that cornerback position. But I'm guessing AJ Boye is gone. I think he hadn't played well enough this year for his contract, and also the injury this past season, mounting on injuries year after year now. And then you have the suspension, so he's probably gone, and the Broncos need the cap hopefully to pay a Simmons and a Harris. So we'll see. But these two guys, Ojemudia and Bosby, I think are fighting for a starting boundary cornerback spot next year. So that'll be really interesting to see. And that's not just this game. Knock on wood, they can stay healthy. But these next 3 games, both these guys hopefully be the main boundary corners. They're probably playing for a 2021 starting spot.
2021, man. That's
what it's about from here on out, too.
I mean, it really is, Nick. It's weeks away, days away. I mean, you're already piling over film. I just started this last week. Yeah, man, it's right around the corner. So these guys need to start figuring out if they're going to be NFL players on this team or on another team. Now, Kenneth Booker coming in here with a 199 super. Appreciate you so much, Kenneth. Happy game day to you. And thank you for joining MHI with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Bold prediction. Diggs under 60 yards and drops a touchdown. Ooh, man. That sounds like a case of the yips a little bit for Stephon Diggs. I don't know how realistic that is. I wish that on him. Absolutely. I wish the yips and the drops. Never wish injury, but definitely wish the drops. Stephon Diggs, man, he's just a beast. You said it earlier. But talking about that secondary unit, man, and this relates to what Kenneth Booker is saying, I'm just going to ask it. Do the Broncos miss Devontae Harris? Because it feels like I see him all the time for the Ravens now. Like, I don't know if I'm just watching Ravens football all the time, and that's why. But I don't see a great player. I just see a player out there, and he's playing. He's not making great plays. He's not making bad plays. But do you wish in hindsight at the time you could somehow make a turnaround like they did with Devontae Bosby and get Devontae Harris back? Or what do you think about that? Because I've seen comparisons, and I'm lukewarm on the thing, to be honest with you, man.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have another body that knows the system out there. But I mean, Devontae Harris, the game where we found out, he's probably not a dude, was the Bills game where he got torched.
And Atlanta.
and Atlanta. But I'm specifically last year, that Broncos-Bills game, Devontae Harris, he was off the field after that. I mean, that was okay. We saw it. That was, yep, you're kind of that guy where you're going to bounce around. You're going to make some money in the league, and that's the 0.1% of the world, or even 0.01. That's great. And not to knock him, because you have to be an elite human being to be able to get to that point. But as far as a good NFL starting cornerback, probably not going to be him. So it sucks because they're so injured, but it is what it is. What I'm honestly more concerned about is the Broncos have Ojemudia and Bosby, who are boundary corners. Now, are either of them great boundary corners? That's yet to be seen, but they're boundary corners. It's the nickel position really where they are so injured. I mean, they're just out of bodies. They obviously have Will Parks, who kind of played I know, yeah. Adam's been playing great this year.
Dude, really Charlie good. Beagle. Charlie, you're such a dude. I love it so much because you're right, Nick. I mean, Charlie's right. What happened? Change of scenery?
Scheme. Scheme is such an important thing. There are very few cornerbacks who fit every single system, and Yadam was so much better in a press-heavier scheme rather than the loose hips and the recovery ability that is required in Fangio's defense. You're much more off-ball coverage rather than straight up on the line of scrimmage. So that's the biggest thing. He just did not fit this defense anymore, and you're seeing the difference now. Just didn't have the recovery ability. But it's going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see how Will Parks plays in this game, because he is going to be the de facto nickel cornerback, but it's really more of a safety. So that's the position where I'm kind of, obviously Cole Beasley's having a good season, a good route runner, a good outlet option for the Bills. And I mean, you're down Callahan, who's arguably one of the best nickels in the game, who's playing great on the boundary, but he's lined up in the slot a lot. Then it's Duke Dawson. Then it's Bassey. So now you're playing a safety in the nickel position. So I mean, it's not like they're going to be a Tyreek Hill kind of guy that can line up in the slot that would absolutely, spank you. But still, it's a concern.
I'm starting to think AJ Bouye knew about these ACLs that have been just rupturing for the Broncos defensive backs, and maybe that's why he was on the elk antler or whatever it was, the PED. I'm not so sure. That's always fascinated me, man. And when you go to the pet store and you see the antlers and stuff for the dogs, I always think of Ray Lewis when I see that stuff.
How can that guy just get away from this stuff? There's no repercussion.
No, we can't. Yeah, Ray Lewis, I hear you, man. I'm right there with you, Nick. No, I'm right there with you. Those dirty, disgusting rat birds of the Baltimore Ravens. Nick, let's get into the heart of the issue. Drew Lock and the Broncos offense. I've heard a term on social media and on the radio and in print that I really like, and I'm not going to steal it for my own, but I feel like Broncos country is using it. Shurmurello. You're seeing a Pat Shurmurello offense with the Panthers. You're seeing not only those high-low reads, but you're seeing those tight end checkdowns. You're seeing some screens sprinkled in. You're seeing the boots. You're seeing the play actions. Do you expect Pat Shurmur to stay with that? And I guess the secondary question would be, when the waters get murky and things start rocking the boat a little bit, people are either going to panic or, reset to what their natural preference is. Scangarello's offense is not Pat Shurmur's preference. What do you expect from the offensive coordinator today?
Well, it is kind of a Scangarello offense in a sense that you're seeing much more under center play action, but it's a different run scheme. Really, you're seeing much more of a power inside zone kind of thing rather than that outside zone stretch, which is much more of the Shanahan tree. So it is a sprinkle of both. Honestly, with the run game, it's more of a Munchak offense because there's so many power looks with the inside zones. But I think the biggest thing is they're not making Drew Lock be a shotgun, spray the ball out quickly kind of passer, but rather they are becoming more of a power run team and then utilizing the play action. There's not many quarterbacks in the NFL that have a bigger dichotomy from play action success versus non-play action success. I mean, Drew Lock, I think he's either the worst or second worst non-play action quarterback passers in the NFL this season, but one of the better play action quarterbacks. So you got to keep doing that. And that means they're probably also going to run the ball a fair amount as well. Run action does not establish play action, despite what Madden and some old talking heads will say. But so this is a Broncos team that will probably rely more on the run game and a lot of play action. You don't have to run the ball to set the play action. You just have to have the threat. They have to believe it. So it's a different thing.
Yes, exactly. And Melvin Gordon can have a big game. A big game from Melvin Gordon could be 65 yards. I mean,
it's not the total yards. It's the
It's the context. And it's like you tell me all the time, it's the context, right? Because I like to make these generalisms that make you mad and frustrate you. So it's the context, right? It's how did he get those yards? It's, run action versus play action, knowing the difference, honing in on those tendencies. You're exactly right. And it's Munchak, man. Mike Munchak. This guy, he should be a coach of the year candidate for what he's doing with this team. But we had a question I want to get to a super. Isn't this run scheme Munchak?
I did not see that comment, Richie, but good job.
Yeah, Richie beat you to it. He called that. That wasn't yours. I see you trying to steal off of Richie Rich. We got Chase coming in here. This is a big question, Nick. Big question. Do you predict we move on from Wilk after this year? Chase Wilner, thank you so much for joining us. Wilkinson, Elijah Wilkinson, the big question Chase is asking right now, and it's a valid question. Is Elijah Wilkinson on the team in 2021?
TBD. Just like the Drew Lock questions, we still got 3 games to
No. You're not going to go Elijah Wilkinson to Drew Lock. I'm going to pin you down on this one. Come on now.
Why make the decision until you have the full set of facts? That's the thing. Like you're making a blind decision then. So we're going to see Wilkinson over these next 3 games. He is far and away the team's best run blocking tackle option, and this team's figuring out that they want to be a power run team that's throwing off the play action. I mean, that's the recipe for success that we're finding. So Wilkinson is their best. I mean, Bowles is better, but Calvin Anderson, really good in screens, much better at left tackle. I was talking with Buana before the game. Well, do you think you'll see Calvin Anderson at right tackle? Maybe some, but he looks far more comfortable at left tackle. We'll probably see some reps at right tackle, but one of my favorite old analogies for tackles flipping sides is that it's not as easy. You can plug a guy from left tackle to right tackle on Madden, but the technique is mirrored. And an old offensive line cliche is that like going from left to right is like switching hands for which one you use to wipe your butt. And it's just uncomfortable. I'm not used to this. So I'm more of
what is that? Who's there?
Hand. So exactly. So we'll see some reps with Calvin Anderson on the right side, but really it's a Wilkinson thing. And again, if he plays really well down the stretch, maybe somebody else will give him the contract. But I could see them giving him another 1 year, $2.5 million kind of deal just to bring in another body that's familiar with the system, and it really raises the floor of the offensive line. But a lot of that's going to depend on how he plays these next 3 games and what the offensive line rotation is going to look like. So I think it's possible. It's possible, but I want to see these next 3 games. Right now, I'd say no. I would rather go to the draft where you probably get a guy round 2, 3, 4 that could be that guy, but that's no guarantee. It depends on how the board falls. So I'm just open to it, and I think these next 3 games they're gonna let him play, and we'll see what he can do.
Off the top of your head, do you remember Wilkinson's where he was drafted? He
was undrafted.
Was he undrafted? Okay.
Yeah.
Because the Broncos don't have a good history, right, with bringing in free agent linemen. They've discovered that. And what they're discovering right now is return on investment with some of their draft picks, right? You're finally seeing Garrett Bowles. You can't speak enough of him. But you see Lloyd Cushenberry's cutting his teeth in the NFL. You saw Nathan Moody and what he brought in just a limited sample size. So I understand, but I was very excited to see it. But, why not? The Broncos are just starting to figure out their offensive line. So if you're just starting to figure out your starting 5 right now, you don't have any depth, Nick. Keep as much depth as you can. I don't know if somebody's going to pay Eli. That's hard to say because linemen are just it's a weird market for them. I would hate to see the Broncos ruin Calvin Anderson. And what I say, I don't want him swinging because I think they've done a disservice to Elijah Wilkinson, to be completely honest with you. I don't feel like Elijah Wilkinson ever truly got that full season to compete against Garrett Bowles. Obviously, Garrett Bowles is the better player, but I'm just talking about he was really training to be the left tackle and got continually smacked over to the right side. I was really disappointed with that, but I think Munchak, he's trying to figure out a way to make it work. So that's a huge testament to Munch.
Yeah, I think that's also something to be said about Calvin Anderson as well, where yes, he had a good game last week, but a lot of that also is Drew Lock is one of the hardest to sack quarterbacks in the NFL. We can talk about him having the internal clock going too soon or bailing on pocket or using bad mechanics, but that sucker is hard to sack. He's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL, and sacks is a quarterback stat as much as the offensive line. So I think part of that is the quarterback position as well, with Drew Lock making him look better. And also Calvin Anderson, undrafted free agent. He's not the kind of guy where I don't feel he's disserviced by making him play right tackle. He's not this type of athlete or player kind of guy where if he's going to make it in the league, I can only play left tackle. You have to be an elite kind of player or an early drafted pick to be that kind of guy. If you're an undrafted free agent, cross train. You're not going to stick in the league unless you can play both sides, inside, outside. So that's just where you're at as a player and that type of a prospect. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it kind of goes like to the jack of all trades, master of none, or something along those. You're right. Unless you're that premier tackle, you better have a little bit of versatility.
It's so important.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But Nick, I think I'm seeing something, man. I might need glasses here. Am I seeing in this chat right now that people are saying Jawan James is still a top right tackle? Who is Jawan James? Do you know who Jawan James is?
You know what? I really like to make that joke before, but after seeing what Callahan did this year, I'm just going to be hopeful. Again, last week we were leaning on optimistic. I'm going to lean on optimistic again. He's going to be back next year anyway, and we will see what happens. I don't think they can truly depend on Jawan James, but he's still part of the roster equation next year. So, and he's got, even if he comes in as just an average right tackle, you're talking about a top 10, top 5 offensive line next year. That's all you need with the pluses that you have on the interior now with the depth, which is a good problem to have. Everybody's like, oh man, we're paying Graham Glasgow so much. You have to pay him. Well, you're paying Moody, Reisner, and Cushenberry nothing. So I don't give a flying hoot if Glasgow's the guy on the bench. You play the best guys and you're still not paying very much because the guys you're playing aren't getting paid very much. So, whatever. Do you think the Seahawks were upset that they were playing Russell Wilson when they paid Matt Flynn? Obviously, maybe they'd want to keep that money, but you play the best guy and you're still paying nothing for the position. So who cares? So we'll see what happens there. But I think, again, next year, Bulls, Reisner, Moody, Cushenberry, Glasgow, day 2 pick at offensive tackle, maybe day 1, but day 2 pick at offensive tackle, and James, that's pretty nice. That's as good as it's looked in a while. The depth, I'm damn excited about that.
For me, James just automatically comes in as the, I was feeling so optimistic till you guys brought up Jawan James. I'm ashamed of all of you. Thank you guys.
He's like a
every other year guy, and he's supposed to have an off year next year.
He's a stock that you bought in, right? And the stock plummeted, but you can't sell because you've already invested in it. So you just might as well sit on it, and either it's going to rebound and you're going to get back at least an equal or somewhat less than you paid, or, you just sit on it. There's no reason to be like, oh, well, forget that stock. You already have invested in it. The money's already there. So you're just going to have to sit and wait on it. You can't depend on it to live on it. That's kind of like, the Broncos don't have a quarterback. Let's take one in the 6th round and maybe he's going to be the guy. That's like, I can't feed my family. I'm going to win the lottery. You can't depend on that. But still, it's an investment they made. They could still get a return on it. They're stuck with it next year either way. So he's part of the equation, and it raises the floor again too. You can't be where he's make or break on the offensive line. But if he comes in and is average next year, the line could be great. The best line since Shanahan's
let's get to good. Let's get to good before we jump to great. Let's just we gotta get to. I gotta pump those brakes. I like what we're seeing. There's more than a pulse. There's tons of reason for optimism on the offensive line. But Nick, I don't know if you're seeing this, man. I feel like it's our duty to try to help out here. So many folks are asking, how do I watch the Broncos game today? Right? Because there's some stuff going on with networks and not having the game. I know NFL Network is for sure having the Broncos-Bills. Troy Rank, our good friend over at 7 News, said, I believe ABC, I believe, is going to be showing the game. Maybe NBC, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure what the live stream options look like online, but at least wanted to try to throw that out there. Do you have anything to add in terms of how do we watch the game?
Well, I've always lived out of market for the Broncos game, so I have some illicit stream apps, which I'm not sure if I should share in here. If you guys need something that's probably a little safer than what I use, then you can share it on here. People saying it on here, but I have some ones like old Reddit streams to be able to watch the games, which we'll see. But it looks like there's plenty of answers on here. So this is crowdsourcing at its best. So good
awesome.
Job, guys.
Well, cool. Well, we are about 10 minutes, 12 minutes from kickoff here, and we're going to get to our predictions first. Or we're going to get to our predictions just at the end of the show, but I kind of want to open it up here to Broncos country, if that's cool with you, Nick. And then you go ahead and kick off anything else that's on your mind right now. For me, man, I think the Bills are legit, but I expect the Broncos to fight. you hear a lot in predictions, and go check out our predictions on milehighhuddle.com, the MHH staff. I always love reading everybody's stuff, right? Because it's so interesting. You get 9-10 different guys in there and you're like, whoa, you see things either very similarly, very differently. And then somewhere we all meet in the middle with those results. So competitive. So one of the first things I'm seeing that we're all kind of going through, I don't expect it to be a blowout by the Bills. I expect the Broncos, this is their big finale, right? This is kind of their big game, the last big game they're going to have. And don't talk to me about the Raiders and the Chargers.
That's always a big game. They could be 0-15 each playing the last game of the season. That game is going to be ugly because of the history there. I mean, those teams, right now the Broncos are kind of the stepchild of that. You know, the Chiefs and the Raiders are kind of going at each other. They hate each other more. But, I mean, Broncos, Raiders, no matter what, I don't care if they're both 0-15. That game, I am in. So, and I think one thing before we get to the predictions here, we should probably magnifying glass, circle, highlight expectations today from Drew Lock. We kind of talked about some scheme stuff, but we're coming off that game where the Panthers, not a great defense. They're extremely young. That was a building team. I love their head coach, Matt Rule.
Me too.
He's going to be, I mean, he's one of the best program builders in all of football. We'll see if he can do the college NFL jump, but this is a game, Drew Lock coming off his best game last week. What are realistic expectations? Because this whole season, we've said it from the beginning. I've said it from the beginning. The biggest thing is win-loss. I don't give a hoot. Obviously, you want to win, but biggest thing is finding out, is Drew Lock the guy to build around for the rest of his rookie contract? Then beyond that's the question. So we have 2 more years after this year, 3 more games for Drew Lock this season to figure out if he's the guy for 2021, 2022, that kind of range. Big game. Biggest thing, I think you hinted on earlier, protect the ball. Don't do too much. Hit the outlet and take what the defense gives you. Because if you can do that with the Broncos defense that is built to slow the game down, not give up big plays, and then a offensive line that is really starting to turn the corner, a run game that's flashing with the power, that's really starting to dictate a little bit as well. They're setting the tempo with that run game a little bit. So don't do too much. Protect the ball. Execute in the red zone, something that Drew Lock has struggled with. That was great last week. Touchdowns, can't walk away with threes, especially with the kicking game this week. And that's enough for me. We just need a solid game, an Alex Smith kind of game. You know, that's enough for me.
Oh, yes. I'm in. And yes, I am in, man. Alex Smith, man. Who doesn't like Alex Smith right now either?
Use your legs. Don't do too much. Let the run game and the defense
no pun intended. Use those legs and knock on wood. I think Alex Smith, is he out with a calf injury? I think I saw that on NFL Network earlier today. But Kenneth Booker coming in here. I want to take a look at this. Broncos are going to sweep the AFC East. 27-24 Broncos. I'm going to start getting to your predictions as we go. But as we talk about those expectations for Drew Lock, I like it, Nick. You don't need to be the hero to win this game, but you do need to be the leader. I find myself studying Drew Lock's behavior more and more. And something that I really liked, even more than the 4 touchdowns, no dancing last week. He was himself. He was having fun. He was smiling, and he was with his team and his coaches. I liked that. That's that energy that those guys love. That gets away from, the Colin Cowherd crowd, and I was on that crowd for a little bit too with the dancing and all that. Well, I think Drew's starting to mature off the field and on the field with some of that behavior. We didn't see the interception, but we saw the fumble last week, right? And you and I, we said it. We're used to seeing Drew look at that Jumbotron like, man, how did that happen? How do I let that go? He didn't let that haunt him for the rest of the game. Yeah. How did he respond? Well, the proof is in the pudding, man. I mean, he was the FedEx Air Player of the Week. I'm absolutely pumped. Do not ask Drew Lock to throw 40 balls. Do not ask Drew Lock to throw 30 balls. Help him out. Complimentary football.
Yeah, and I think something that listening to Drew Lock talk, and also just the offense's progression the last few weeks, especially since that slow start in the Miami game and the interception in the Chiefs game. Drew Lock had been looking to play hero ball all season, a lot of pressure on himself. I mean, he gets criticized a lot. He's a quarterback of a team that's football starved for success after the Super Bowl runs with Manning. Yeah. And there's a lot of pressure on him to succeed, and he wants to be that guy. He's been used to having to be that guy. I mean, Missouri, solid SEC program, but they're talent deficient in a lot of games. So he used to have to play superhero ball. But in the NFL, I mean, these guys are so good, and you have talent on the Broncos around him. I mean, even though they're decimated with injuries, this team has a really good foundation. I'm excited about these next few seasons.
You're giving me goosebumps, Nick. You're giving me goosebumps.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that you don't have to do too much, really, and you can't put yourself in bad situations. If you move the ball slowly and make the smart read, give your playmakers a chance to do it, the big plays will come because you're in positive situations. It's not 3rd and 10 and the defense can pin their ears back. It's 3rd and 1 and you have the option of the run, the play action, the deep ball. If you keep the ball long enough and put yourself in positive situations, the big plays will come. But first things first is taking what the defense gives you and executing, and we're starting to see that from the pass game in Drew Lock. Now, can that keep up? We got 3 more games against an average defense with the Bills this week. Good personnel, not playing great though. Right. And then terrible defenses with the Chargers and the Raiders. Terrible.
What an awful game the other night. I hated both teams.
It was a fun game, but it also made me sick to my stomach because if the Chargers get a really good offensive-minded head coach, Justin Herbert is going to be a F-bomb problem.
I know.
Scares me a lot, but we'll see what happens. Gosh.
Yeah, it's you got to be competitive. And if you're Drew Lock, and I want to get to Kenneth Booker here in just a sec, Kenneth, I haven't forgot about you, brother, as we start to close up. But if you're Drew Lock, don't you want to go out there and prove your boss, John Elway, one of the GOATs, right? You're right for taking me, John. I'm still trying to prove everybody, forget the first-round draft pick and the slip and everything. Drew's trying to prove that he's an NFL starting quarterback. Doesn't he want to go out and prove John Elway right and say, hey, man, I got your back, John. You're out there on the airwaves defending me. I'm going to make it – I made it a lot easier for you last week. I'm going to make it even easier for you this week. Drew doesn't need to be the big rah-rah guy, right? You've got Justin Simmons, 3-time Darrent Williams Award winner, by the way. Congratulations to Justin Simmons. But you've got leaders like Justin Simmons out there, not a big rah-rah guy either. He says he likes to go out and lead by example. You've got Kareem Jackson. Philip Lindsay, I never count Philip Lindsay out, guys. I think sometimes he's not getting enough opportunities, and that's why we're not seeing him necessarily take off. He's got those choppy feet, the happy feet. He's trying to do too much right now. Never count Philip Lindsay out. But speaking of never counting folks out, Kenneth Booker, we can never count Kenneth Booker out because he is always one of our ride or dies. Appreciate you so much, Kenneth. He's saying the Denver defensive line will get 3 sacks today. If we could get that back up one, I might have just had that one go down. Denver D-line. He's got the Denver D-line getting 3 sacks on Josh Allen. That's not an easy task, Nick. Man, how do we get there?
I think the biggest thing is that the Broncos keep it a close game and they keep Allen in the pocket because Allen is a guy, because of his tools, because of his arm talent, because of looking down the field, he is one that will sit back there for a bit and he will try to make something happen. So 3 sacks are definitely possible, but a lot of it comes down to the gameplay and everything. And that was me, guys. I accidentally hit it down. Kenneth, I'm sorry. I love you. I was trying to click something else and it went off, but we love you, Kenneth. We got to get moving though. Prediction. I'm going to keep it short and quick because the kickoff is right around the corner and we got to read out of here. I think the Bills are going to end up winning this game 24-20. I know, blah, 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 Nick. I think it's going to be a close game. I think that the Broncos are going to be the whole time. It's not going to be a game where they get some garbage time stats, and Locke is going to do enough to keep hope alive for the Broncos and his career going forward. And that's pretty much all I'm looking for.
How dare you? That was the same score that I picked. 24-20 Bills, and I got my pick in before you did. I saw that, so I know you saw mine and you just copied it. But no, you're right, Nick. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be close. I hope I'm wrong, man. I really, at the last second, thought about changing it. I really did. Maybe you have a heroic moment from this kid, this kicker, this Taylor Russolino that no one's known. But Vic Fangio, get after this kid. Get after Josh Allen. Vic Fangio, man, this is why he's here. Figure out this young quarterback. He's made a habit of confusing them. He's made a habit of making things difficult for him. We saw it with Pat Mahomes, so it can definitely be done. But no, man, this was a fun show. This was so fun.
I'm just I was reading this comment here. It said Josh Allen's the new poster boy of the NFL. I am kind of really just having an issue here because how many good quarterbacks in the AFC now? Baker Mayfield is playing incredible football. We have the reigning MVP Lamar Jackson. Justin Herbert's having one of the best rookie passing seasons ever. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Obviously, there's Josh Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa as well. And we're going to have Trevor Lawrence joining soon and potentially Justin Fields with the Jacksonville Jaguars. AFC has so much good young quarterback play. Drew Lock, please. God, all I want for Christmas is you to be the guy. All I want.
Well, and I'm trying to look out the window. It looks beautiful. It looks sunny right now. I'm getting ready to go flip on the game myself as we wrap things up. So, Nick, dude, thank you so much, man. I know your schedule's always so busy. I hope your family and everything ends up well with your loved pet and your cat and everything, man. I'm really sorry to hear about that, but this is going to be an exciting game for Broncos country. Be sure the Huddle Up Pod will be coming on at halftime with Zach Kelberman and Chad Jensen, and then Huddle Up Pod will be live for the post game as well.
Yep, absolutely, guys. Find us on Twitter at MHI_football pod, at Luke Patterson LP, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Go to Facebook, like, subscribe, share, YouTube, do all those things, rating and a comment on iTunes. We appreciate that. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. And guys, great game today. Hopefully everybody stays healthy. Have a safe Saturday. Also some great college football games today. Notre Dame, Clemson playing right now, as well as tonight, Alabama, Florida. So good football day. Y'all stay safe. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.